Good evening, and welcome to Foothills Community Players' production of Three Sides to a Story, the radio play, directed by Megan Fair and originally written by Wyllis Cooper. Join us as our three characters narrate their versions of a story with forbidden love and plots of murder. Starring Bailee Burleson as Claudia, Adam Paine as Victor, and Christine Sawka Fraser as Frances. So sit back, relax, and close your eyes to experience Three Sides to a Story, the radio show.
Well, we were walking along this road, and it was dark, sort of like twilight. Just a long, straight road, and there wasn't anybody else on it. Just us three. Victor, Francis, and me. And we were all walking along. It was kind of funny. We were walking along, and as long as I can remember, as long as I'd known him, Victor had gone around in a wheelchair. But he was walking down the road with us. And then we came across these three stones, sort of like milestones almost, and they were the only things you could see alone there in the twilight. There were three stones and three of us. And I said to Victor, "I wonder what those stones are." And Victor said, "Well, I don't know." And Frances spoke up, and she said, "I bet I know what they are, Claudia." And we said, "What?" And she said, "I bet there are tombstones." And so we kind of laughed and walked on a little farther, and all of a sudden there was a big red glow in the sky ahead, and it looked like a fire. And we wondered what it was. And after a minute or two, we could see the flames, and it looked like the biggest fire any of us had ever seen. And we kept walking down the road toward it. And we still didn't know what it was. I want to tell you the story, how we three came to be walking down this road at night toward the fire. Well, we lived in California, beautiful little house up on a hill, way up in Topanga Canyon, which is one of the passes across the mountain from the ocean to San Fernando Valley. Beautiful view, with a private road running up to the house and a drop of 600 or 700 feet practically right off the front porch. Well, Victor was retired. He'd been a doctor in Michigan and got some disease that put him permanently in a wheelchair. He came out to California in 1938 and married Frances 2 years ago. And they hired me as sort of a handyman, companion, what have you. Push Victor around in a wheelchair. And the top of a mountain in Topanga Canyon is a swell place for a wheelchair, believe me. Well, so I kind of got to be one of the family. You know how it is. There's always more than one side to a story, and this is my side. Honestly, I hadn't even noticed it until one day last fall when Francis and I were sitting on the porch having a cold drink. Victor was in the house taking a nap, and I was just sitting there looking down the hillside.
You know what, Claudia?
What?
You're awfully good looking.
Well, thanks, Francis.
No, I mean it.
Well, you're good looking too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I gotta drive over to Canoga Park for the groceries.
Oh, stay here a while. There's no rush. Maybe I'll go with you.
Well, I'd have to go pretty soon.
You've got the nicest hair.
I ought to give you a quarter.
No, really.
Well, I ought to get a job in pictures.
You'd be terrific.
You know they put caps in your teeth?
You got good teeth.
You want another drink?
I don't think so. Yes, ma'am. You're quite a pretty woman.
Well, you ain't so bad yourself.
Oh, me? If I'd met you before I met Victor, I could have gone for you.
Well, I'm gonna go for the groceries.
Oh, sit still. There's lots of time. and we're having fun.
You are.
What do you mean?
You're ribbing me.
I'm not ribbing you, Claudia.
What do you call it then?
I'm making love to you.
Cut it out, Francis.
Yes, sir, if it wasn't for Victor.
Well, maybe we ought to knock him off.
Maybe we ought to.
Well, I'm going to go get the car.
Wait a minute.
Huh.
Give me a kiss.
Oh, come on now.
I said give me a kiss. Come here. Now.
Listen, Francis, Victor is just...
Oh, why, Claudia, how nice.
As Claudia said, there's more than one side to a story. And I want to tell my side. Victor, Francis's husband, the man in the wheelchair. I wasn't asleep. I had been, but Francis's voice sometimes is louder than she thinks it is, and it woke me up. There's one thing about a wheelchair. It moves quite silently. I'd rolled over to the doorway just in time to see Francis and Claudia embracing. I quickly slid out of sight. I don't know why. I suppose it was more or less instinctive. And I waited till Claudia went down the porch steps before I pushed open the door.
Oh, are you awake?
Obviously, my dear.
Claudia's gone for the groceries.
Thought I heard her voice.
She just left. Have a good sleep?
Very nice.
Like a drink?
I think I'll wait.
There she goes.
Hi, Claudia. What's the matter with her?
Why?
Why? I don't know. She looked sort of embarrassed or something.
Oh, you're crazy, Victor.
She is quite the independent woman, isn't she?
Who? Claudia? Oh, sure.
I mean, she's got all the freedom in the world. I never realize just how lucky they are.
What do you mean?
I mean, compared to me. I know I never gave it any thought when I was in good health.
Oh, Victor, don't talk that way. You've got a lot of things Claudia hasn't got.
I've got you, dear.
I mean, like money.
Money really isn't so important.
You know, Victor, I really wonder why...
Why, what is, dear?
Why people who have lots of money are always the one who make that crack about money not being important.
Well, I suppose you have to have money first to discover just how unimportant it is. I suppose that's it.
I'd sure like to have a chance to find out whether it is or not.
Are you hinting that I ought to raise your allowance?
No, I didn't mean that. I mean, I'd like to have just buckets of money.
We're fairly well fixed, you know.
I know, but that's your money, Victor. I'd like to have bags and bags of my own.
Well, all you have to do, my dear, is wait until I die.
Oh, but I want it. I'm sorry, Victor.
What would you do with it?
Why, I'd buy all of the clothes in the world, and I'd travel. I'd go to San Francisco and Santa Barbara and New York, and I'd
leave me roosting on a mountainside. I'm glad you haven't gotten it.
Oh, Victor, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry.
Oh, forget it, darling. I couldn't resist the temptation to kid you even a little.
Well, I am sorry.
I tell you what, it is rough on you being cooped up in here. Why don't you have Claudia drive you up to Santa Barbara tomorrow or the next day?
Oh, Victor, really?
I mean, I guess we can afford it.
Oh, gee, and I can get some new clothes.
And I think I can trust you with Claudia, right?
What?
I mean, trust her not to let you buy too much.
Oh. Shall I get you a drink now? So now you want to hear my side of the story. Well, I'm not quite ready to tell it yet, and I may surprise you when I do. Let Claudia tell you some more. Here, hun.
Well, I drove her to Santa Barbara. Victor said he'd be all right in the house for just one day. He said to be back by evening, though, so we started just before sunset, coming down the coast road. And I was kind of wondering about Frances, but well, she didn't say anything, so I figured just let it pass. We were just passing Point Mugu, where the Japanese fishing village used to be before the war, and now the Navy shoots rockets or something like that out there. Well, Frances said to pull up, and so I pulled off the road. Well, I said,
You can kiss me now, Claudia.
"Oh, I can, huh?"
Yes.
Listen, Frances.
Please, Claudia.
Well,
I think Victor saw us.
What? When?
Yesterday afternoon, when you kissed me.
He was asleep.
I don't think he was.
Oh my gosh, Frances.
So, one more kiss won't hurt.
Listen, Frances, I really
Just
can't.
one more, though.
I can't lose
Don't
this
you
job.
love me?
Frances, listen to me. You're Victor's wife, and I like Victor, and
Why,
I can't do that.
I like him too, Claudia. I guess maybe you'd better not kiss me after all.
Well,
You're right. You're right. Let's drive on. It's getting dark, and I worry about Victor.
So do I.
It sure was fun today, with a lot of money to spend. I wish I really had a lot of money.
Gosh, Victor's got a lot, hasn't he?
Oh, sure. And if he dies, I'll get it. Oh, I mustn't talk that way.
No, don't.
I worry about him sometimes, Claudia. In that wheelchair. If he'd ever roll off the porch up there, why, he'd fall all the way down the mountainside. Why, he'd be smashed to pieces, wouldn't he? Wouldn't he?
Frances kissed Claudia again today. I said a wheelchair is remarkably silent. They didn't hear me as I wheeled myself from the living room to the kitchen. And they didn't see me. I didn't speak until I had moved away from till they moved away from each other. But if I ever saw guilt written on two people's faces before, I saw it then. It's been about 2 months since I saw the first kiss on the porch. And, well, was it the second? Or, gosh, I am a suspicious fool. Of course, my wife loves me. And of course, Claudia is a loyal friend. I mean, what am I thinking of?
I mean, I'd like to have just buckets of money.
I am a suspicious fool.
Oh, but I want it.
I am a suspicious fool. I must have Claudia oil this wheelchair. I think I might have detected the faintest squeak in the right wheel.
It would be nice to be married to Frances, wouldn't it? I think she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And it's funny how long I've been here with them, I never really noticed just how beautiful she is. Victor's changed, though, hasn't he? I never used to notice how stingy he is. I mean, poor Frances. She deserves everything in the world, money and good times and just everything. I like Victor, sure, but it'll be a great break for Frances when he dies. She'll be rich, like she wants to be. And I wonder where I'll fit into the picture then. What am I thinking about? Victor is my friend, even if I do work for him, and Frances is his wife. I've got to stop this. I'll start thinking about murdering the guy next thing. Oh, Why, hello, Francis.
What were you thinking about then, Claudia?
What do you mean? When?
When I just came out on the porch.
Why, just thinking.
About me?
Well,
Were you?
kind of.
You're a nice girl. I like that about you.
Where's Victor?
Upstairs, reading. You know what I wish?
What?
I wish you and I could go for a ride.
Well, we can't. You know that.
Sure, I know it. But the moon's so nice. Wouldn't you like to, though?
But we can't.
I know it, but there's no harm in saying we'd like to, is there?
Well, of course not.
What would we do? Would we drive down to the beach?
I guess so.
Would you kiss me?
Francis!
Would you?
Stop it, Francis.
Don't you love me, Claudia?
Oh, Francis, please, let's not.
Don't you?
Please, don't.
Claudia.
You know I love you.
Be careful.
Well, you said he was upstairs.
Well, he's not deaf.
I'm sorry.
I'm not.
Well, now you know.
Yeah, now I know. Claudia?
I'm going in.
No, wait. It'd be awfully nice being married to you.
Francis, don't say that.
Wouldn't you like it?
Well, yes, but...
But what?
Well, Victor.
Claudia, do you love me enough to do something for me?
Pretty near anything.
Anything?
Anything. What do you want me to do?
Nothing. Now.
Well, what do you mean?
I'll ask you to do something for me someday. Will you do it then?
Well, what is it?
I'll ask you someday. Promise you will.
Well, I promise, but I wish I knew what it...
It's me, darling.
Wait. Listen.
What is it?
I thought I heard a squeak like that one on Victor's chair.
I was a surgeon, as I think Claudia told you. I was formerly a rather expert diagnostician. I possessed also, I flatter myself, that detachment that is such an important asset in my profession. I've performed operations on close friends with the same objectivity that I employed upon unknowns. Therefore, I was able to apply the same impersonal approach to the diagnosis of a case in which I might be presumed to be the most interested party. And it is interesting. My conclusions were easily arrived at. I was in danger of my life. Francis had spoken of marrying Claudia. Claudia was obviously under an influence that I at least recognized as sinister. My wife, the woman that I married for love, the woman that I had cherished. My wife was plotting my death, and for the most sordid of all motives. Money. Now, I don't deny that I am very careful with money. Remembering back through the years of our marriage, Francis has always been impatient about money matters. I remembered the talk that we had that first brought the whole thing to my attention. I was certain that I was right. She would, when Claudia had been properly brought to heel, demand that she murder me. And Claudia would do it. I had only two uncertainties. One, when, and the other, how. If I could learn these, I could defend myself, and I intended to defend myself to the utmost, my friend. If they plotted murder, I could plot murder. And I might succeed where they could fail. It was an interesting problem, the professional against the amateur. My wife, whom I had loved, well...
I can't, Francis.
You promised, Claudia.
Well, I didn't know what you meant.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You did, Claudia.
I tell you, I didn't.
You knew what I meant the minute I said it.
I did not.
Didn't you?
I tell you, I didn't.
Didn't you?
Well,
And you promised.
I can't do it, Francis.
It'll be so easy.
No.
Just a little easy push on the back of the wheelchair.
No.
And then we'll go away and be married and have so much money, Claudia. Don't you want to marry me?
You know I do.
Well, then.
Can't we just wait?
Darling, I've waited and waited and waited for you, and I won't wait any longer. I want to marry you. And well, no.
Francis, do you really mean you'll marry me?
What do you think?
Francis! Francis!
No, not now. No more kisses, darling, until...
We can't do this.
We can, and we will.
But I don't think
Look,
I can...
Darling, sit down, and I'll tell you exactly what to do. Now listen, it'll be so easy.
Claudia has been looking at me very strangely today. I think perhaps the time is getting short.
But how can we be sure he won't just fall out of the chair, Francis, and you just get hurt a little?
You'll have to think up some way to keep him in it, darling.
But I can't. I don't know how to...
You'll get an idea, darling, but do it soon.
Today, Claudia installed a strap on my wheelchair to hold down the blanket that I usually wear across my knees, she says. Now I know how it's to be done. A long drop down the canyon from the porch.
But when will we be married, darling? I mean, how soon?
Just as quickly as we possibly can. We'll have to wait a little while, at least till his will is probated and I get the money. And then... But we mustn't do it too quickly and make people suspicious, you know.
We could go to Mexico, couldn't we?
We'll go wherever we want to.
I just wish there was some other way.
There isn't. Now go away. He mustn't see us talking together so much.
Do you think he's got any idea of...
Of course not. He hasn't the faintest idea in the world.
I have armed myself. I found an old favorite hunting knife that I haven't used for years, and it'll fit nicely under my blanket. I just hope I haven't forgotten how to use it. I don't think I'll have long to wait. And I still have discovered another curious thing. There's a revolver in Francis's purse, a short-barreled, ugly little weapon, and it is loaded. I wonder.
Well, this is the night. This is the night I keep my promise to Francis. And it is a hot night. We don't usually have hot nights up here in the canyon. And as we sit on the porch, we talk about it.
Awfully warm, isn't it?
I've never seen it so hot.
Earthquake weather.
What?
Earthquake weather. They say when it's hot and sultry like this, it breeds earthquakes.
That's silly, Claudia.
Claudia.
No, it isn't, Victor. I remember when I was a kid that... What?
Now.
And for a second, I don't know what she means, but she says it again.
Now.
And her voice cracks like a black snake whip, and I jump to my feet, and she's staring at me, and I stretch out my hand to the back of Victor's wheelchair.
And now, listen to my side of it. I told you I'd surprise you, unless you've already guessed it. That's just the way it was.
Awfully hot, isn't it?
I've never seen it so hot.
Earthquake weather.
What?
Earthquake weather. They say when it's hot and sultry like this, it breeds earthquakes.
Oh, that's silly, Claudia.
And I said, Claudia.
No, it isn't, Victor. I remember when I was a kid
And I said,
that...
now. And she started to move slowly toward Victor's chair. And just as she reached out for the back of it, I yanked the little revolver out of my purse and aimed it straight between her eyes. Yes, Claudia's eyes.
Shall I tell you the third part of the story? I was sitting there, and I said, awfully hot, isn't it?
I've never seen it so hot.
Earthquake weather.
What?
Earthquake weather. They say when it's hot and sultry like this, it breeds earthquakes.
Oh, that's silly, Claudia.
Claudia.
No, it isn't, Victor. No, I remember when I was a kid that happened.
And I heard Frances speak again.
Claudia.
And she stumbled to her feet, and I knew this was it. Over my shoulder, I saw her coming toward me. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw the ugly little nose of that pistol in Frances's hand pointing straight at Claudia. And I flung myself out of the wheelchair, and I knew I had won. I drew back the hunting knife to hurl it straight at Frances's heart. And
yes, it was earthquake weather. And no, nobody actually murdered anybody. But there are 3 bodies up there in Topanga Canyon, buried so far under the wreckage and thousands tons of hillside that nobody will ever find them.
And the 3 of us, Victor, Claudia, and I, were walking down this long, straight road together toward that fire. I guess you don't actually have to commit murder to be guilty of it. If you think about it and plot it and plan it, well, that's enough. You get punished anyway.
you know what that big fire we're walking into is? We know.
That concludes Foothills Community Players' 3 Sides to a Story, the radio show. If you would like to support our future productions, visit our website for volunteer opportunities and a link to make a donation. Thank you for listening this evening, and we wish you a happy Valentine's Day.